the best thing about this community is this is like the last community where the like American dream can really happen, where you can like show up with like a gunny sack on a stick with an apple in it and just like walk up to someone that looks successful and be like, golly gee, sir, I sure would like to make a name for myself in this here town. And they'll be like, well, son, if you just follow me here. And then like then you're started.
So if the idea behind this podcast is to have conversations with interesting people in the community, it's hard for me to think of anybody better than Steve Lee. He's the kind of person you don't really walk away from without having formed some kind of opinion. He's the only person I know who gets attacked somewhat regularly on Reddit, which is always a good time. He's become something of a controversial character in the Tri-Cities, whether that's because somebody disagrees with his political opinions during his time on city council, or they disagree with the way that he makes his living as the owner of Green to Go. He's definitely made a name for himself in the community. He's also somebody that I'm deeply proud to call my friend. He and his wife have been extraordinarily generous to me and to my family during our friendship. And I know that isn't just me. He is a rare, successful person who hasn't really forgotten what life was like before he had what he has now. He remembers what it was like to struggle, and he carries that with him to make sure that he's taking care of the people around him, whether that's his friends or his employees or strangers or just the community in general. And it's always fun to get a chance to talk to him. He's a brilliant man. And if you enjoyed it, please do the whole like, comment, subscribe, that whole thing, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, rate, review, that whole thing. And if you didn't like it, then that's fine. Just don't do anything. We'll just both carry on with our lives, all of us. But anyway, here's Steve Lee. How's dad life?
Man, it's been cool.
So you kind of had, I think you and I are sort of in maybe similar dads in a way, where like, I don't know, well, maybe I don't know that about you, but like when something keeps me from doing the stuff I want to do, even when it's my children, you know, I get a little frustrated. No?
I don't have things I want to do anymore.
Oh, okay.
I just, I really just made the mental understanding with myself that, and my life is special, and so I get to just be like, meh, fuck everything, you know, like I'm not gonna do anything anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we tried so hard for so many years to have the kid, that when we finally had kid number one, I was like, oh, this is the only thing I'm gonna do.
Oh, okay.
And so that was idealistic. You know, now
Yeah.
I've got nannies because it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, and we can, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you know, for a while it was very hard.
Yeah.
And now, now that we have some support, it's more fun. But like I want to be there every day for it all the time. And it's fun, getting to make my own rules about how to be involved, and at any point we can just be parents.
Absolutely.
It's really cool. I know everyone doesn't get that luxury, but it is, it's the thing I want to do more than I want to do all the other stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I've done so many other things, and this is unique.
Yeah.
And like it's FOMO all the time.
Oh.
Like every day their youth is expiring in front of your eyes. Yeah. And you're like, what is this the last time I'm going to have this memory of?
It blows my mind. Like, there was a last time, for example, well, I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff you do with a little kid that you're not going to do with a teenager or even like an adolescent or whatever. Like, even just the way that, like, any kind of physical contact will change, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's like, it's a really strange and kind of painful thought to me that, like, I don't know when the last time I'm going to lay her into a bed is.
Right. Yeah,
you know what I mean? So, like there was a last time I changed her diaper.
Yep.
They're like, and that's fine. Like, I don't miss that in any way. But, like, for everything that happens, there's a last time you don't know what it is.
Yeah. And,
but one of my kids was very much unintentional. You guys, on the other hand, you had to do it on purpose.
Yeah,
like,
well, we tried to do it on purpose, and then none of that worked. And then, like, right before we took the dive into having a science baby, we just had a biological baby. And then the first opportunity after she gave birth that we could have to have another attempt at having a biological baby. It also worked.
Yeah.
So we just went 2 for 2. You know, our kids are a year and 2 weeks apart.
Yeah.
How old are they?
Right now, the oldest one is 18 months. So we got an 18-month baby and then a 6-month baby.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or it's actually 7 and 19 months now, yeah.
Okay. I have 2. The one's 11, one's 12, 18 months apart.
Nice. Yeah. So, yeah, you understand.
I do.
Yeah, the 2 under 2 thing is an interesting dynamic, and it's a lot of work, and neither of them are, you know, very autonomous. Our oldest one is still pretty good, but, you know, it's a lot having 2 creatures that depend on you for everything.
Absolutely. And my oldest son's autistic, so it created even more challenges. But, I mean, it's been such a blessing. And now I'm at that age where, and you guys are going to enjoy this, where you get to see their personalities. You get to see who they are as people.
Yeah.
You know, where they're going to be like, you know, they're in middle school now, and you're starting to learn about how they interact with their friends and such. Yeah, fatherhood.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Yes, parenting, wicked cool. It's better than I ever thought it could be, and also 40 times more terrible than I ever thought it could be.
Yeah, there are so many sort of platitudes that come along with it, where you're supposed to say that everything, you know, like they just grow up so fast or whatever. I kind of feel the opposite of that. I feel like this is taking forever.
Yes,
I'm glad it's taking forever. Let me backtrack, because I just said one of my kids was unintentional. But that's another platitude, sort of, is like, you don't want your kids to know that they were an accident. But like, I think almost everybody was probably an accident.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, having
like,
an intentional baby is super rare.
Yeah. So you guys, though, you had to, well, at least for, I don't know if we're saying their names or anything like that.
Oh, sure, that's fine. I'm not weird about my kids.
Zuzu took some effort.
Yeah. I mean, getting to Zuzu took some effort. Zuzu didn't take any effort.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of failure
Right.
along the way that took a lot of effort.
Right.
But once we hit the ground running, it was pretty smooth.
So they're like people kind of, that's, I guess, a common, you know, I guess I'm going to say insult or whatever for like kids to throw around, that like somebody being an accident or something like that, like seeming to be synonymous with not wanted. You know what I mean? Which is definitely, in my experience, not the case. There was a very different level of effort and intentionality that went into each of my children, but like that doesn't change the way I feel about them one way or the other. But if it did, you know.
I think it just all goes out the window once you look at them.
Yeah. You think so?
I think so.
I think if you're doing it right.
If you're a good human being.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, you know, like for you though, you know, the amount of effort they had to go into becoming a father.
Yeah,
you know?
What did you do exactly? Did you guys do in vitro, or was it just?
Yeah, we did everything up to, we did several IUIs. We did one round of IVF that didn't work, and then we were shopping for surrogates and trying to do egg harvesting, and we were about to take it was going to be $80,000 to get a guaranteed shot with this doctor down in San Francisco, plus then if we wanted surrogacy, the extra cost of that. And then literally the same week we got the estimate bill was the week that she got pregnant. So awesome. It was like my baby was like, I'm not going to let that happen, you know? So that was good. That was good.
Put that towards my college fund, Dad.
Yeah. College isn't going to exist then.
So your life changed, I mean, recently, you know, your role in the community has changed a little bit. So, how, well, I mean, you've been a prominent figure for a very long time, and you still are, but your role has changed. Like, how are you feeling about not being a councilman?
Oh, I feel great about that.
Yeah.
I did the thing that I wanted to do, and then for various reasons, I wasn't reelected, which I'm totally fine with.
Okay.
And now I get to do a lot of like, oh, not my pig, not my farm. When people call my cell phone and they're like, is this the mayor? I get to say, whoa. Number one, hi. It's 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Number two, I am not the mayor. And number three, here is his phone number.
Right.
It's his personal cell. You go ahead and give him a call.
Right.
And if he doesn't answer, here's 4 other people's phone numbers in the order I like them least to most.
Right.
And just be surly as shit. And here's how to yell at him just right.
Well,
and
you
coach him.
You say not my pig, not my farm, but like you initially, you genuinely went into that that position as somebody who had like a vested interest in I shouldn't say vested in, well, yeah, vested interest. Literally you
For
did.
real.
Yeah, in the future of Kennewick in general.
And I still do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how does that change going forward without that specific platform? I mean, what changes for you?
The thing that I learned is that the platform of like local city government is inherently important for a lot of reasons, but none of them are the reasons that people are excited about. It's very boring.
Yeah.
And all the reasons it's important are boring reasons. And that's good. It's infrastructure. It's, running the stuff day to day is not exciting.
Right.
People get excited about 5% of the stuff a city council discusses hits that conflict zone. And so, I mean, our city council, even though it was broken, we still voted unanimously 93% of the time in my 4 years. And most of the stuff that we didn't vote unanimously for was small things. And about 3 to 5% was ideological different stuff that where people were like, I'm going to make a stand. For no reason, by the way. People pretend like local government is way more, the West Wing than Parks and Recreation. And that's a huge sign that the person you're dealing with just doesn't get what they're doing.
And no matter what you do, you get Rob Lowe.
Yes, that is correct.
So are you going to do the meeting? There's a meeting tonight, isn't there?
There is. This is a workshop tonight.
Over Clover Island is what I was told.
Yeah, I think Clover Island's on there. And then also they're going to go over the ethics policy that they keep trying to get rid of.
Okay, so if you had your vision for downtown, something that's possible, where would you like to see it? From where it's at now, where would you like to see it go? And what do you think it's going to take to get there?
I mean, I think it's going to take a lot of younger people to spend money investing in the spaces. The problem with downtown and with the Tri-Cities in general is that we have got this culture where we wait for outside money to come in. We wait for older people to come in and start pointing fingers and buying buildings and making decisions. And people are generally divested from the process. And they don't feel like there's any way that they could have an impact. And most of the time they're right. And the other big problem we have here is that we take our successful and ambitious young people and we repel them away to other communities, almost as a rule. Like almost the cooler you are, the smarter you are, the more talented you are, the more quickly you get the fuck out of here. And it's that brain drain, that talent drain stops the people that would be creative enough or industrious enough or potentially wealthy enough to make big differences in our community and puts them in other communities where not only do those communities get the impact that they would have otherwise had here, but also it is harder to make a difference in those bigger communities because everything is more expensive. Everything is more, there's a network of people that are already there and invested, and you have to break in and make a name for yourself. And it's a whole thing. Here, none of that exists. You can just decide you're going to make a difference and do the thing. So we've had some young people that stuck around or that moved here and then became affluent along the way and have decided to start putting their money back in a little bit. And we've already seen the community just shit on them. And so, like,
do you have any examples of that? Or?
Yeah. The 9 in downtown Kennewick was it's a project headed by a young gay couple that live in Pasco. They've both been in the community as a small business owner and as an integral part of many other businesses and financial institutions over my whole adult life here. So, over the last 15 years or so, 20 years. And they got a space and they got this great plan to build a 5-story building with retail and food on the bottom and condos on the top. It was going to be an anchor presence, and it was going to be in downtown Kennewick, right at the end of the Ave there. Next to the old hardware store, and just really going to shine up a turd and make a thing that would be an anchor for a lot of the businesses around there to have live-in business, customers that are a walking distance away, which is really what we need in some of these spaces, high-density solutions. And they're trying to put it together themselves. They've had some investors. COVID hit. Money gets harder to get. They still are pulling it together, and then they have a economic investment or economic development grant that's by some port sort of organization. I don't remember what the acronym is. And they voted to pull the money from it. And it was like $1 million in financing. And that pulled the string on the whole deal. and it fell apart. Well, we're talking 40 residential units, maybe, 5 retail businesses. So you're talking maybe 50, 60 jobs.
And that was right downtown.
And it was going to be in the core of downtown.
Washington Hardware, kind of where the
and it
furniture
was going to
store
be a
is.
5-story building. You've been able to see it from the river. Like, it would have been beautiful, an anchor thing. And it would have been owned by young people that are from here, that are trying to be here forever. And instead, what happens is, it's hard to make it not sound a type of way, like a room full of old, rich white dudes. I'm like, nope. And then it just isn't going to happen. So, and there are versions of this in our community that have been happening for a long time. But, things are getting better. More of us are staying and trying because we see that there's an opportunity. A lot of the people that have reins of control in our community are dying because they're old, and time has a way of making that happen. And a lot of people that can choose to leave are choosing to leave because they're wealthy and they literally think our community is too liberal and too progressive. And
Here?
Yes, here in the Tri-Cities.
That's strange to me. I've heard the opposite.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, whenever you see a house going up for sale in the Tri-Cities and it's somebody that's lived here for 15 years, they're moving to Idaho, they're moving to Montana, they're moving to Florida, they're moving to Texas. They're moving places that are more couched in red than even the Tri-Cities is. And when they move out, who's filling that house? It's somebody from Seattle. It's somebody from Portland. It's somebody from Vancouver. It's somebody from another community where the housing has gone way even further out of control. Yeah. And they want a safe life for their family. And so they bring their little center-left family here from wherever else has even more damaged housing market. And they love it. And that is further moving. So we've got natural attrition through death. And then we have people that are leaving because they think it's going to get taken over by the liberals. And they're actually making it happen. Every one of them moves away is further liberalizing our community.
Very interesting. Almost everybody I've been working with over the last several years, I shouldn't say almost everybody. There's a sizable number of the people that I've been working with that I hadn't had a relationship with previously who are moving here from Portland or Seattle or getting squeezed out of California and whatnot. So there's definitely some truth in there. Having been a part of those conversations for the last 4 years. 4 years? 4 years. Yeah, of course, 4 years. What has been the pushback from those rich whites? Like, is it just that they feel for something like that project or any kind of other project that somebody might have in mind? What is the justification that they give you?
They don't give justifications, homie.
Really?
They don't explain themselves to you.
Okay.
There are no answers.
Okay.
That's not how anything
Well, just
works.
a reason. Is it really just what's up?
Change.
Yeah, it's just not them. It's just not. It wasn't their idea.
Exactly.
It's not them. It's different.
Yeah.
I'm out. And that's the hard thing is that the people that are from here, and the thing that just happened recently is that now there are more people that aren't from here than people that are from here. That's weird and new. And it's made the people that are really from here, whose families go back all 3 generations our community has existed, it has made them more defensive and more sort of, together. And so we'd actually have this weird little, old townies group, and then we have everybody else. And it is really easy to make a bunch of money keeping people out. Most of the deals, y'all know deals. Mm-hmm. Most of these deals that are done with folks that have been here forever are to other folks that have been here for forever.
Yeah.
Or their family members. And they're all really profitable. And they are, shuffling assets and consolidating assets to their kids and friends and family. And it's not, there aren't big businesses going up for sale to out-of-towners in the Tri-Cities.
Seems like even internally for them, that's the kind of the justification is not wanting change. For example, like any kind of revitalization project going on downtown, they like it the way it is, even though they don't go there anyway.
Well, the problem with downtown isn't that they like it the way it is; it's that they think it's a trap. They think it's like the crime-ridden, gross area.
Okay,
and so the wealthy people are like, oh, it's either the cute area and it's really coming back that's been there for the last 4 or 5 years. Since like Stephanie Button got down at HDKP and since like Foodies came in, that really started regenerating that area. But there's still, people have this misconception that it's like dangerous down there or something. Like when I turned 21, the first thing my mom said was, don't you go to the bars in downtown Kennewick. You'll get shot or stabbed. It was downtown Kennewick. And it was, in the 2000s, there's no problems. But people still have these bad misconceptions. There's still a narrative that it's a gross place or it's not worth it. Well, that's wrong. And, thank goodness with the way the economy is, people are going to be forced down into that area because it's one of the only places left with cheap housing. And people will see it's not bad. It's not bad. It's great down there.
Born and raised, 4th and Beach.
Right.
I used to spend my whole childhood downtown Kennewick. The card shop down
yeah,
there.
Yeah. Yep. My dad did all the HVAC and all the restaurant equipment repair for a bunch of the restaurants in downtown Kennewick. So I grew up on the rooftops and in the kitchens, sort of holding the flashlight for my old man. And, that's the reason I'm invested is because like that was my childhood area, the BS Express and, the card shop. I was there a lot. So either way, people are held away from it for that reason, but also like people don't want to put money into stuff that's already making them money. Most of the reasons shit's broken is very common sense reasons. Like people that already own are already making money. Why would they spend a bunch of money redeveloping an area when they're cashing checks, bro?
Sure.
Profitability dictates the longer I can defer maintenance, the more money I'm making. And so right now we're in this death spiral in the Tri-Cities where all these people that have had this land for 30 and 40 years are riding it out literally until they think they're going to die. And then they're calling and trying to sell these properties that have 30 years backdated maintenance that need done. And they're like, but everything's worth $1 zillion. And they'll get $750 million and they'll die. And that's the end of the story. But I've had phone calls from rich white dudes that are on death's door. They're like, I'll carry the financing if you'll buy my apartment complex for, what I think it's worth.
Right.
And then you get there and you're like, oh my God, people live in this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then you wait 2 months and somebody bought it for that much money. And you're like, all right, well, good on them.
Yeah.
So there's no incentive for people to make this town better because they're just waiting for somebody else to come in from California and buy their shit.
Right. It's something I think about, and we've talked about this before in the past, but it's something I think about a lot that like sort of the economic sort of like the epicenter of commerce in the Tri-Cities is like the 800 feet between the front door of Target and the front door of Red Robin, right?
That's
like I've always kind of felt like this place. The reason a lot of people I think get disillusioned, younger people get disillusioned by this place because it is like living in a Applebee's inside of a Target, right?
Yes.
That's what this place is. So my question about any kind of project that would go on downtown or anything along the water, and we can get into like the mechanisms of developing along the water, and actually I'd be happy to, but would something like that even work? Like everybody who's on Reddit right now complaining on the Tri-Cities subreddit, I just had a discussion with somebody yesterday about they just moved here and they're like, what's cool? And everybody's response is like, well, nothing. And there's a certain degree of truth to that, but it's really just because they're just complaining about it. They're not doing something cool. You know what I mean? Like they're not trying to build something cool. And maybe that's because they can't. Maybe that's because it's set up, it's not set up for them to be able to do it.
You just said it. It's not set up for them.
Right.
If you ask a cross demographic of people of all ages of our community, what's cool in our community, they start to have answers at 40.
Yeah.
Because once you're 40, there's tons of cool shit here.
Yeah.
Once you start to like boring stuff, once you start to like drinking wine, once you start to, and this sounds awful, once you start to like lower your standards, you're like, well, I'm just never going to live in a place with cool stuff like X city, Y city.
Right.
Then you're like, well, sure, axe throwing is all right. And so then, then you're reinvested because you're not moving. And so, you start to feel like it's cool.
Yeah.
But, kids have ambition and they see and they want, and they still have these, they don't know where their bar is. And so like, they're always going to feel like there's nothing. But the evidence that there's nothing is that there's nothing that is crafted for them.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this town for age 14 to 19-year-olds that is cool and not directly related to school or church or sports.
It is church. Like it's, I can draw with maybe 1 or 2 degrees of separation, everybody who matters in my life, I met them through relationships I built in my church, right? That's kind of the way our social structure is set up. It's that, and then it's bars. Or I don't even know if that's a really good, it might
Unless you're a hoodlum.
Unless you're a hoodlum?
I didn't grow up in church.
Okay.
All my friends are thugs, or they used to be thugs.
All my friends are thugs.
Until I got to school, really, because where I grew up, You know,
Yeah.
it's not that it was. I mean, we're not in Compton, we're in Kennewick, but what I'm saying is the lower income.
Yeah.
You know, so I come from a different place.
Yeah.
And
So
speaking of that, if you don't mind me
go
asking,
ahead.
you're saying how hard it is to get vested. It's hard to really establish yourself in this community. So, Steve, how did you do it? Like, how did you get to where you are today? So we know you own Green to Go.
Yeah.
What did it take for you to get the capital?
My wife and I own Green to Go. We own all of our businesses and everything 50-50 as partners.
Perfect.
Your wife just texted me a minute ago.
Tell her I said what up.
She was about it. The house she wants to see.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious. Do you want to help us explain to people like what you did to get where you are?
Yes. So the long and short of it is going back to I just did a lot of shit talking of the Tri-Cities, and that is very uncharacteristic for me. There are only like 4 problems here, and that's some of them. The best thing about this community is this is like the last community where the like American dream can really happen, where you can like show up with like a gunny sack on a stick with an apple in it and just like walk up to someone that looks successful and be like, golly gee, sir, I sure would like to make a name for myself in this here town. And they'll be like, well, son, if you just follow me here. And then like then you're started. Mm-hmm. And like this town is still small enough that you can, there's like 4 billionaires that live here or something. You can like still go meet the 4 billionaires that live here if you meet like 2 other people. And those people are taking calls and meetings. Like this town is small enough that any board of directors you want to sit on, you can just show up and be like, this is a thing I care about. And they're like, well, let me show you what you can do. Here's a title, here's a badge. The thing my dad said to recruit me to this community from the Pacific Northwest was, I grew up in Burbank. That's where I went to high school. And I left a junior high with 3,000 kids for a high school with 300 kids. I graduated in a class of 37. And my dad said, here's the thing that you'll like about the Tri-Cities, is if you want to be in football in Kitsap, you're going to have to be the best. And maybe in the best 200 is still the best. If you want to be in football in the Tri-Cities, you show up. You're going to be in football because they need that man. If you want to be in the drama club in Kitsap, you're going to have to be really good. You're going to have to try really hard. You're going to have to meet some people. If you want to be in the drama club in Burbank, you're going to have to make a drama club, and then you can be the president because you made that fucker. And so that mentality of move to the small pond and really focus on being a medium-sized fish, and then just grow with that pond is way easier than being in a large pond as a small fish and trying to earn your way up. And so he said that to me. We had like a 30-minute conversation. I told my mom, I was like, hey, I'm going to move to the Tri-Cities. And so even from the age of like 13, my strategy was be in this place, meet as many people as I could meet, and make sure that they know that I'm the guy they should talk to if they're looking to give anybody a chance. Okay. And so for years, I even practiced this and there's a longer story about the time when I rented a house from a billionaire. And I did it through like George W. Bush, weapons of mass destruction. I made this catchphrase for myself. I was just hardworking, ambitious young man. I literally, and we did it as a joke initially. And so there was like 2 years where I started inserting hardworking, ambitious young man into like every conversation with an influential person is how I describe myself. I'm just a hardworking, ambitious young man trying to, whatever. And just like as cheesy as it was, I forced that in there. WMDs, WMDs, WMDs. Eventually, after like 3 or 4 months, people started introducing me to other people. And this here's Steve Lee. He is an ambitious, hardworking young man. And, he is really just looking for a leg up. And then they'd hand me off to an important person. And, they would create a relationship and an opportunity. And literally that mechanism, inserting myself places, telling people what I was about, and then just not being weird or a creeper or whatever, that was really what it was. And the thing that ended up getting me my weed license against all odds, which is what made us wealthy, was a cup of coffee I bought for a guy 8 years before and just said, give me advice. I'm an ambitious, hardworking young man. Seriously.
Right?
Seriously.
People have been saying it. People have been saying it about Steve.
I have heard that. You know what?
I've actually heard that before.
Yeah. and so, that's how I got my weed license was 8 years earlier. I bought a dude a cup of coffee. And he's like, tell me the things I need to know because I'm going to make it. And I need you've made it. Tell me that. Right. And so, that literal shtick was what has given me everything, every opportunity, was just telling people I'm the guy looking for an opportunity. And so this community is small enough that, going back to, hard money, the concept of that, for folks that don't know, there's a whole industry of risky ass things that banks will not invest in. But weird rich white dudes who have money to burn will sure write you a check if they just like you enough, is essentially the thing. And so like along the way, my very first investor was a random rich white dude. I didn't even know he was white. The first time I met him, I thought he was homeless. And he knew that I was an ambitious, hardworking young man. And I was trying to get my little weed delivery service. And he was like, I was like, listen, I'm in a corner. I need like $800. And for me, that was all the money. He was like, all right, here's $800. I was like, okay, cool. And then I came back when it was time to pay him back. And he was like, hey, what do you think you could do with like $10,000? And I was like, what? He's like, go make a plan. Come back and let's talk about it. You should have plans like this. And I was like, okay. I went back and made a plan for what I would do with $10,000. I came back and we met, and he was like, good plan. So what would you do if you had $30,000? And I was like, what? And he's like, well, if you don't know how to spend $30,000, why would anyone lend you $10,000? I was like, that's great advice. I went away and I made a plan for $30,000, $50,000, $75,000, $100,000. And I came back with a binder. And I was like, here's all my plans.
Wow.
And he was like, okay, well, I'm not going to write you a check for $100,000, but I will give you $30,000 under the premise that you make jobs for people and you treat them well. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, how much time do you want me to pay you back? And he's like, just whenever. Just make the jobs, treat people well. And so like my very first investment was a rich white dude who was just like, yeah, I like you. Go do the thing.
What did you do with that investment?
I bought a bunch of drugs, and I resold all the drugs. I hired people.
So that's how you afforded the business, basically.
This was in the old days. And so when the business was mostly relationships, I needed that money for a delivery vehicle because it already expanded. I needed to buy a bank vault to store the money in the weed, and then I needed to buy staff. And so we hired people, and we bought a bank vault, and we bought another delivery car, and we progressed.
What item line was that in the binder of like buying a bunch of drugs?
Number one.
Number one.
That was number one.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like the number one thing when he was like, what do you need $800 for? And I was like, if you can give me $800, I can drive to Seattle and I can come back to the Tri-Cities and I can make that $800, $2,000 in 6 days if I try real hard. He was like, okay.
Yeah.
So that was the plan initially.
Well, talk to me about that, about making jobs and treating people well, because well, actually, before we talk about that, I want to talk about like sort of the way that you view philanthropy. Because I remember, I think probably about the time we met was when you were doing the hashtag do good things and brag about it.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that philosophy. Jason and I were actually just talking about that yesterday, about the idea of on its face, people can kind of view that as like you should only do good things if you're not going to tell anybody that it was you that did it.
It was garbage.
Right. Well, sure. So tell me your philosophy on that.
We agree on that, by the way. It's garbage.
Oh, yeah. It's just broken. It is a broken idea that our grandparents told us because they thought Jesus would be mad if you told somebody that you were a good person.
Yeah.
Because somehow if you were good, that made Jesus less good. That's that's really the core of this, I believe. Yeah. But somewhere along the line, all of us, our grandma, our mom said, you're not supposed to talk about the good stuff you do. And so we said, oh, okay. And then we just we're like, oh, I should feel guilty about the good shit I do. And we all feel that way.
Yeah.
And so now we live in the 21st century and everything is broadcast on our own personal branded channels and we've all become our own brands. And we market ourselves all day, every day. Our families have branded Facebook groups, where we talk to each other. Our 13-year-olds get their first iPad and they've got a whole shtick they're doing on TikTok, and they've got 1 million followers. So like it or not, we all are brands. We all have our own channels, and things are different than they were. And we talk about everything. We talk about our relationships. We talk about the shit we buy. We talk about the stuff we make. We talk about the money we make, the places we go. Oh, the places we go. We frame every aspect of our life in the most glamorous way we can so we can look like we are worthwhile and so people want to be our friends.
We start a podcast. We pretend it's about you.
Right. But it's really about, whatever. Yeah, we won't talk about it. So that's just the reality. And so the one thing we're not going to talk about is the good shit we do. So we're going to highlight your Air Force Ones, your vacation, your jewelry, your anniversary trip, your kids pooping in the tub, but we're not going to talk about the fact that you actually gave $1,000 to a charity.
Right.
Why not? If we really believe we're brands, what we're doing is advertising to people that my lifestyle and my decisions and my values are so worthwhile that I think you should consider those. We're persuading them that we are worth wanting to be like that.
Well, and there's a hope that it's contagious as well.
Right. Everything's going viral. Good shit can go viral.
Right.
And so that was really the thought when we thought about do good stuff and brag about it was, can we crassly brag about all, and it was really trying to be bizarro Donald Trump. I've got a whole thing about bizarro Donald Trump. So it was really like, can we be grossly brash about good stuff we're doing in a way that like actually turns people on to wanting to do that thing? And will it create negative traction? Will people get weirded out? Yeah, of course they will, but they'll talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the strategy, was to just really just shamelessly promote every time I did anything good. And literally I sent out press releases to news organizations when I made like $100 donations to places and like just really anything. And eventually,
like a good tip.
Yeah. It's just and like the funny thing, going back to our small town, is the news agencies here are thirsty,
right?
And because there's nothing going on,
right? And
they want easy news, and shit is horrible. So if you can bring good news to the table, you have a really good shot of getting it on the news.
But I will say, like, I've built my business off the back of telling people the good deeds that we do. And I don't even share a tenth of the good deeds that we do.
You should.
And I think the reason for that is just like you said, is that you do get judged, and especially in the real estate industry. People are like, oh, he posted another sold sign. Why is he doing that?
They do that, yeah. Like in our industry, it's a weird thing people do where they're like, people get upset when you're like, sold another one. Well, like, what do you think my job is? My job is not to just sell houses in secret. My job is to do a job for somebody.
Can I fix this idea?
Yeah.
So it's so easy. All of this is so easy. All you need to do is change the post, and internally you make a decision that you've adopted a philanthropic organization, and every time you sell a house, you make a standard donation to that organization. And so now every time you sell a house, it's not, I sold a house, look at my big pile of money, you poor pieces of shit.
It
is, look at this charitable organization that through our hard work and ingenuity, we have now funded yet another time.
Right.
We would like to call on all of you to find a charitable organization to link your realty companies to. Take that moral high ground and advertise the shit out of it. And so like then you can still make the post every time, but you get this wonderful shield of moral high ground.
Yeah.
And you get to say, yeah, I sold a house, but it's also really, I made this donation to this charitable organization because I sold a house.
Right.
And here's another charitable organization I made because I sold a house. Mm-hmm. And so you can just back end that and avoid the outrage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a company we used to work with who I'm not giving out a free marketing for them. No offense to them, but the Children's Miracle Network with, I'll say it, Remax. We used to work at Remax.
I never did like that balloon.
Who likes balloons?
Full of hot air.
Yeah, it's a matter of time till they kill a family.
But it was nice. So I think, what did we pay, $50 per transaction, and they matched it or something? Is that what it was?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's some good stuff, but it raises the question whether like is a good thing not a good thing if you did it in part for yourself.
Here's the layering philosophy that answers that question. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. There's another broken idea we have because our dads got mad at us along the way and said, "You're gonna half-ass a thing. Don't have only whole asses.
Yeah,
everything's got to be whole-assed."
Dad and his whole ass.
Yeah, you know, he's got principles. And so we also think that while we should feel guilty about the good things we should do, that if we can't do a good thing good enough for it to be capital G good, then we're also a piece of shit and we shouldn't even do that thing. But if a good thing is worth 1 or a good thing is worth 10, and you can do 10% of a good thing, that's still a good thing. It's above the zero line.
Yeah.
And so people feel like, oh, what could I do? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Could you push it forward an inch? That's still a good thing.
yeah,
Brag about that thing.
Make an effort.
Yeah.
Well, tipping's a good example, right? Because like
Sure.
there's like the places where you have to pay on an iPad now, and it asks like even though they didn't do something that like would be conventional wisdom would dictate that it's not a thing that you would have tipped for previously. Like if you buy I can't really think of an example off the top of my head, but like any kind of job where you like they. Not somewhere that you would have normally tipped, but they flip around the screen and it says, "You want to give me 15%?
Yeah.
It's like any coffee shop.
Yeah, coffee shop, for example. Right. Okay, butcher. Yeah, let's just use one. Like I wouldn't have normally tipped you, but now the screen is asking on your behalf, right? So there's a part of me where I tip just because, like, I'm not here to make a stand about like the dynamics of tipping because that's a broken, weird system.
It is.
I got a tipping story for you.
Okay.
So I was going through I go to Roasters. Black Rock Roasters, whatever it's called these days.
Yeah.
And I go and I get the same coffee every single day, same girls, same group. And I think probably 3 times this year, I just go through around holidays or whatever. I tip everyone each $100. But I was telling Brian, I don't turn around and post that on Facebook because if I do that, everyone's going to be, why did you do that?
Right.
Why are you talking about it?
Right.
You know?
But when you get a hater, a wise man, Thomas Jefferson, I think, once said, if you ain't got haters, you ain't popping. And I may have that mixed up. And so, the reality is that when you post that, the first person that says, that guy's an asshole, everyone that likes you, and this is really like, this is not, this isn't like an idealistic way to talk about humanity in such simple terms. But everyone that likes you is going to defend your brand.
Yeah.
And then when they are called to defend your brand, what happens? They are going to be mentally further invested in your brand. Every time someone makes a Reddit post about me being the devil, 75 people are further invested in my brand because that one guy decided that he was going to make a post because they'll go on there and say all the nice things I've ever done.
Bro,
I don't need to do it anymore. They just do it for me. And like it's actually a net plus for your marketing.
Okay.
You're fun to be friends with because like there's nobody else in my life where I log into Reddit and there's something about them. Like, you know what I mean? You're the only one. Like it's
my favorite thing is it always happens when I've been at home doing nothing for like 3 months and I haven't talked to anyone for 60 days and all of a sudden,
Yeah, just a reminder.
Reddit superstar, Steve Lee.
He is, yeah. He like it's fun to be like on the toilet in the morning and read a story about you.
all the posts get deleted
They did
because they get so many like harassing like, you don't know what you're talking about. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
And then they're like, this is just stupid. And then,
Yeah, there's one in particular I remember that somebody just, it was a lot of, I don't know, I know you pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, it was like obviously not what they were saying didn't fit with, my idea of who you are as a person. And like, I think the chances of that person actually knowing you were pretty slim. You and I had a conversation about the kind of people who spend their time posting or commenting or whatever. And like what we were talking about was like, can you imagine like Michael Jordan commenting on a YouTube video, right?
No.
Like that's not a thing generally that great people kind of do. It's...
That's why Lamborghini doesn't advertise on commercials.
yeah. Well,
Because people that are buying Lamborghinis aren't watching commercials.
no. Yeah, no, that's absolutely the case. But the other thing about something like bragging about the tips that I want to go back to is the likelihood that anybody who complained about you posting that, the likelihood that they also tipped everybody $100 but didn't say something about it is zero. Like anybody who's going to complain about you posting something like that. So what they're saying is I'm doing nothing and I'm not bragging about it.
that's correct.
So, I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to what he's saying.
I'm with you, Steve. Let's do this hashtag. You should show me it when we're done.
Yeah.
We'll
There's a bunch of good stuff on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's great. Everyone brag about all the good stuff you do.
Absolutely. And like you're somebody who's got the means to be able to do something like that. You just have to,
And speaking of other people with means and tipping, if you're a rich person and you don't tip a whole bunch, you're a piece of shit.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's what I was saying before about like, I'll tip out of necessity sometimes, just because I don't. I mean, part of it is because I think that you did something great.
Sure.
But part of tipping is just, I don't want to be known as the dude who doesn't. But tipping is just a very broken system.
Yeah.
But I remember what it was like to be in that, position.
But so like one of the things that I have a hardest time with about being not poor all of a sudden is that I've spent my whole life with this idea of rich people and like this idea of like how many of them there are and like what they do and whatever. And, you learn that you're functionally like, especially in the Tri-Cities, the joke I make is like, you're the king of Applebee's because there's like nothing here.
Yeah.
And so you could be worth $1 billion, but what is that? It gets, you're the king of Applebee's. Like you get the same, fajita platter as the next dude.
Right.
Maybe you can order two,
Right.
but there's no like brass bell in this town to ring. You just exist with,
Right.
you just exist with more money. And so knowing that you cap out in this town with a personal income of like $200,000 a year. You and your spouse, you bring in $200,000 a year. You won the Tri-Cities game. There's no more game for you. You can afford literally the nicest house that they sell in your neighborhood. You can buy whatever car you want. It's over. So past that, what are these people doing with their money? Because it isn't giving it back to the community. Because I know how much money I give back to the community, and I know what my tax rates are. Because the other thing rich people do is they brag about their taxes. And I know what my tax rates are, and I know what a normal wealthy person's tax rates are, and they are not the same.
Yeah.
And if I just gave the amount I paid in taxes that was different from a similar person whose money wasn't in cannabis's taxes to charity, it would make a huge wave in the whole community. And I'm not even in the top 25 richest people in the Tri-Cities. And if you're looking at people that are making over $250,000 a year, there are a lot of them in this town. We are a very wealthy community, and they are not doing anything with their money. Not anything that's giving back, and they should all feel ashamed. I mean, that's the thing. So like, it's that same thing with tipping is like, if you're making that much money, you should be tipping $15.
Yeah.
Every time you go to the locally owned coffee shop and buy your coffee, slam a $20 bill. I don't care what your coffee costs. Give it back to those kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and it's all relative, like that extra, the extra $2 or whatever difference between 18 and 20% on something like is a not insignificant amount of money to them when it's
Correct.
when it's spread out over however many cups of coffee or tables that they waited.
It's crazy. My wife and I, whenever we go places, and especially like at food restaurants, I was a server at food restaurants. What?
Food
I'm
restaurants.
an idiot.
Hamburger stores.
At the hamburger dispensaries. Whenever we go to restaurants, we tip a lot. I was a server for a long time. I believe in it. I tip, my minimum is 100%. Nice. At any place where they have to serve me, coffee stores, I round up to $20 on every order. And
Really?
Yeah. So like, no matter what I buy, I burn at least $20 at every time I go get coffee.
Wow.
They need the money more than I do.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so like, but when we're at restaurants and like my wife and I will, especially when we're on vacation somewhere and we're trying to go to a fancy restaurant or like a cool place, and we'll literally do the Richie Rich thing, do and be like, bring me one of everything on the menu. It's the coolest thing to do if you've got the money ever. When you go to a bomb like restaurant, you're like, we're gonna need to put you at a bigger table so you can taste all of these things, sir. It's the best. And they bring the bill, and then there's like, all right, I'm gonna tip 100% of this bill, and you write somebody a tip for, even $250. But when you get to like, when you're like we've had like dinners that were well over $1,000. When you write somebody a tip for $1,000, they cry and they come back and they hug you, and like you've made their year.
Yeah.
This Christmas, I stopped bragging about it so much because it's just, fuck it. It's a lot of work to brag about all the good things you do when you do a bunch of good things. This Christmas, I was just giving money to people over Facebook Pay when they were like, times are hard or whatever. I was like, hey, DM me. And this one lady was like, hey, my best friend's having this really hard time. And I gave her a few $1,000s. And it was like there were thank you notes to this lady. There were like mystery person, and there were, talked about how made their Thanksgiving and Christmas and paid off their back bills and gave them a chance in life it would take them years to establish otherwise. If all these other rich people out here aren't doing this shit, just literally giving money to strangers.
Isn't it our duty to do that though? Like as a person who makes money, maybe it's because I come from nothing, but like as a person who makes money, isn't it our duty to share that wealth?
There are two things here. It's our duty if you're a decent human being who understands that you only made it because of the roads that were paved that led you to where you are.
Yes.
Or if you are smart enough to understand that they're going to eat all the rich people and you want to be last. And the reality is like, if you think this economy is going to last forever, even into your kids, if you think shit ain't going to get dicey, at least at some point,
Right.
You're not thinking.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been very long in American history since it's gotten very dicey. And
Can I interject? Because I know we're heading in this direction.
Yeah,
I know you're a big investor in crypto and NFTs and the currency, I guess you could call it these days. Is that part of the reason why?
No, the really dumb reason I'm into NFTs is I like art and I do like crypto stuff, but I really like art. And I ran out of places to hang art. I bought all the art. I have too much art. I don't have enough walls for all the art I have. I have art in storage. My wife was like, you cannot buy any more art. Anything you have to hang, you can't bring into this home. I was like, all right, shoot. And then one of my favorite artists got into NFTs, and I was like, does this count? And my wife was like, oh, no, that doesn't count. It doesn't have to hang it on the wall. So I took that as a big old green light. And so that was sort of what got me in, because I like to support artists that are real people that I can meet and know and stuff like that. And one of the best ways to befriend a famous artist is buying their art. And so that's how I got into NFTs.
Were you able to meet your artist?
Digitally through Instagram, but now we have a decent relationship.
Very cool.
We DM and stuff whenever it's needed, and he gives me heads up when he's about to drop projects, and so I've got good timing on buying the things, and so relationships is all about relationships. But NFTs are cool. I just like the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that necessarily money is going to be valueless or anything. But the thing that crypto taught me was that maybe I shouldn't say this on a realtor's podcast.
You tell me.
That I should sell all of my investment properties and turn them into crypto miners, because the money return is so slow on traditional property compared to even the dummiest return in crypto mining. And so I did the math, because we can't get loans, we have to buy stuff cash. So my smaller rental house, it's worth $340,000. That $340,000 probably nets me $6,500 a year after insurance and taxes and maintenance to the home and management fees. And then I gotta pay taxes on that, 40%. Right. So I'm making on $340,000, I'm making under $4,000 a year profit. And for $340,000, I can buy crypto miners, and every year they will churn out $340,000. So why would I not do that? So I really I'm excited about divorcing ourselves from our grandparents' ways of investing and funding. The biggest thing for me, the biggest draw to DeFi is being in cannabis. We don't have bank services. We don't have, and hard money being our only paradigm, this whole crypto and DeFi and DAO structure sort of investment situation, it brings a lot of opportunities for non-traditional people to get into big, rich white guy money,
Yeah, okay.
It's cool to see DAOs of 3,000 people throwing beer money in a pile and buying a golf course. That changes things in a community.
I mean, NFTs are changing too. They're already, I was just reading this article in New York City, you're going to be able to buy an NFT for a full dinner package experience. So the NFT, you buy it and it guarantees you these special 10 restaurants, but it's all in one night or something. You can do this cool tour.
Yeah.
So now they're starting to turn NFT into actual tickets. So I really feel next 10 years, we're going to be buying airplane tickets. It's going to be an NFT.
For you guys, the most exciting thing is when we get NFTs, when we get all of our mortgages onto NFTs, because then the person, you get royalties on reselling a house generationally. That house changes hands 10 times over 50 years. Every time you get a check when they sell that NFT to the next owner.
That's going to happen.
It's already in the works. Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Do you think that the difference between you're drawing a parallel? Well, you're drawing a comparison between a generous wealthy person and I don't want to, not selfish, but less generous wealthy person. Do you think that part of that is remembering what it was like to be that waiter?
Yeah, because I was real poor. Yeah. And my wife and I lived in a closet in a commercial building on an air mattress with our dog. And I remember that every day. I remember I still have debit card panic sometimes when I get gas.
Yeah.
I remember one of my last very poor memories was feeling so excited to bring home 2 pallets of Top Ramen. And I just was this is all the Top Ramen. I remember being thrilled over Top Ramen. And so I still see obviously not rich people. And I'm I remember that sucks so hard. Right. Have $100 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because if you can do that and you're not, why did you make that money?
Right. That's one of my favorite things about you is that you seem to be kind of rooted in that. You're enjoying yourself. You're having fun. I have a black hoodie, several black hoodies. Mine is different than yours.
Sure.
You were enjoying yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you remember what it was like to not be able to do those things. And I think that's, it strikes me that is why you treat your employees the way that you do.
Yes.
So working for you, is this all of your companies? Benefits, everything?
Yes. Yep. All of our full-time employees get benefits. And there's a marginal split for them. I don't know if it's like 5% or 10%, but like we cover almost all of it. And it's Hanford level executive coverage for all the things: medical, dental, vision, chiropractic, EAP. And it's for yes, we are.
Honestly.
And it's for them, their spouse, and all their kids.
Okay.
We also, of course, give away free weed, and we have a weed match where they can buy a certain amount every week at cost. And
Weed match.
we have 10 paid holidays a year for all of our positions. We have 2 weeks PTO, faultless PTO for all of our positions that are salaried, and then they earn that much if they're hourly. We do a lot. We have a lot of training. We develop our employees heavily, and it's a profitable decision to make because we have a super low turnover.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, regular retail turnover is like 60%. For like if you just had like a Radio Shack or whatever, you're expecting to lose 60% of your staff annually to turnover. And there are weed stores that are comparable to mine that burn 20 employees a month. And at my store, we lose 20 people a calendar year. Less. Most years we lose less than a person a month.
Do you have somebody who's been there the whole time?
Yeah. We have 7 people that have been with us since before day one, since the medical days.
Nice.
And so that's over 10% of our cannabis side staffing has been with us since the very first day.
Yeah, Brian, you brought up multiple businesses. So what businesses are you involved in besides Green to Go?
We have Green to Go. We have another store up in Tokyo that's on the way to Spokane. And then we have another license in the city of Pasco, but they have a ban. We have Green to Go Wellness, which is our CBD only arm. And we have a location in downtown Kennewick. We have the Prohibition Beer, which is a beer and exotic snack shop where we import snacks from all over the world and we get weird craft beers brought in.
Where's that at?
It's in the back of the CBD store behind a secret bookshelf door.
Okay.
And we have a glass blowing studio, and we have an ATM business, and I've just got a crypto mine started. We have a land holdings company now.
So just a couple things.
Yeah. We're like 13 or 14 companies at this stage.
You're not busy at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have employees. Yeah. And so I'm actually not that busy because rich people can do tons more than poor people with their time because I can hire out my own productivity to people.
That's what money buys you.
It is. It buys you time. And people think that it's like about stuff. And like the reality is you run out of cool shit to buy eventually. Like I'm like 3 years into having money, I'm already out of stuff I want. I just don't want anything anymore. Cool. But I have all that stuff. And so like, again, all these people that have been rich for 50 years, what are you doing with your money? You don't want any more stuff.
I think about your kids, and like that's one of the, and it was just by nature of what my dad did when I was, my whole childhood, my dad would be, there would be conferences that he would go on and he would take us. So we got to travel quite a bit. And that was a very important thing for me, I think, growing up. And I thought that would be a very important thing for my kids to be able to experience different things, different states, cultures, whatever, or to just see stuff, to get out a little bit. So like I'm honestly, I would be very excited for your kids to like, there's not really much of a limit for where, how much of the world they're going to be able to see. And
Absolutely.
I think that is really exciting.
And I've like never left the U.S. And before I was,
have you never?
No. And before I was 18, I'd maybe went to like Oregon, Washington, and Idaho.
I've been to Canada once for like half an hour, and I've never left the country otherwise. You've never left?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's on my 2022 goals. I
Go
want to
to
Rome. I want to go to Rome.
Oh, to Rome? Where would you go?
Man. The tropical places are cool, but I'm real sweaty. I don't really care. I like going. I like trying the food. I like seeing the buildings.
Food for me.
I like, looking at the people. I'm a tourist.
Yeah.
Like I'm a unashamed American tourist at all the places. And that's just in America. So, we'll take our kids to all the places. And that is going to be a very exciting time whenever this pandemic is is over.
Yeah, we had pandemic kids, man.
Yeah.
Like,
2 pandemic babies for
Yeah,
me.
it's almost. I'm kind of thankful that my kids are the age that they are during this because
Me too.
Audrey is just starting to kind of like realize like that she could hang out with people, but she's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it'd be really rough for like kids your age, right? Like that's
My kids are real easy though. They love their masks. Like my son will wear it in the car.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like part of him now. So
my daughter like reminds us to like put hers on.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like them, man. I like
I
the
do
mask
too.
thing.
They absolve a lot of social anxiety for me,
Yeah.
to be totally honest. And like, there's this part of me that like wanted to have an excuse to dress up like a ninja every day anyway. And you know, it's that's
living
real
the
now.
dream. Living the dream.
Yeah, there was a part of it at the beginning though, where, and I don't go to the bank for any of my companies anymore because whatever. But you know, at the
people.
beginning I was still going to the bank, and going into a bank with a sack of cash with a mask on feels like this weird reverse robbery,
Right.
And also feels like if they do get robbed while I'm here, how are they going to figure out who it was?
You know what? Something that's
It's crazy that bank robberies haven't gone off the charts,
Right, so-
during the pandemic.
One of the angles for I guess I'll just say it for this show is I'm not going to bring up like politics or religion or anything. That's just not going to be my angle with this thing. But what I will say about the mask thing is that it kind of blows my mind that anybody's face is caught on security cameras right now. You know what I mean? Like how terrible of a criminal. How stupid do you have to be to get your face caught on a
Disguise
camera
is
right
mandatory, and you're still getting your dumb face on camera.
It is mandated by
Yeah.
the government that you can.
You're such an outlaw that you're gonna get caught.
How anti-mask do you
It's
have
their
to
right,
be?
Brian. It's their right.
And that's fine. That's fine. Show yourself.
Yeah.
But like, how anti-mask do you have to be to not wear one going into Best Buy to walk
On the
out
other
with
side, it's crazy how many people you can fully recognize with their face fully covered up.
Yeah.
Like how unimportant that actually is to noticing who someone is.
It's
I
all
would have
eyes.
never guessed that.
Yeah,
It's all
absolutely.
eyes.
Yeah. But so what? I mean, now that you're kind of hands off, what do you see happening for the future of Kennewick in particular?
Oh man. I mean,
Do you think that kind of infrastructure, whether it's on the water or whether it's downtown, do you think something like that, if it were just poof, it's there, would it survive?
of course.
You think so?
Yeah, it just needs to happen, and the race is really. The crisis of values that our community is about to reckon with is: do these families that own all this stuff and have owned it since time immemorial, do they sell it to people from California or from China? Or do they find people in their own community to enable to climb their way up the ladder? Because we are finally facing this issue where the Tri-Cities is kind of the hot girl at the table. People want to be here all of a sudden for many reasons. And so these families that have all this stuff, it's easier to sell it to China or to sell it to California or an investment firm out of South Dakota. It's hard to find a young, ambitious person that can take your empire and give them a shot. So it really is inherent on a bunch of people whether or not they want to take the easy way out or whether they want to build community. So here's to hoping.
Well, it always gives me pause when I think about the kind of businesses, and I'm sure they thrive everywhere, but like the most thrive, like the idea that we have one of the highest grossing Red Robins on the planet is sort of
And Starbucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And 7-Elevens.
Yep. Every app. Well, we lost the king.
We did.
Oh, we did?
We lost the king, dude.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Slurpee capital of the world shut down. But
It shut down?
Yeah, it did.
yeah,
They
that
closed
one
it.
on Clearwater. But the thing that kind of gives me a little bit of pause on that optimism is just, and it could just be a demographic question about what the kind of people who have lived here traditionally value, which is like the thing about Red Robin or Applebee's or whatever. And we talked about this a little bit earlier about like as you hit 40 or you do the 40-year-old kind of thing that maybe I'm doing a little bit earlier in my life than 40. I've got the 2 kids. I like the idea of something like Red Robin where I know what I'm going to get and I know there's crayons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So while I completely agree with you that I value something like that like food truck pavilion that's going to open or whatever, or like some kind of like, I don't know, like an art shop with like some condos
Kitschy,
above it or
yeah.
whatever, like some kind of bespoke mac and cheese shop
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like as much as I value all of that stuff, it seems to me like the demographic here is largely valuing the ease of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's again the 40+ crowd. They want familiarity. They want to get what they know they're going to expect.
Yeah.
The cool stuff, the boutique stuff is out there. It's not for you right now.
Right.
And that's the hard thing is all the people that we keep in our community through providing cool stuff have no money.
Yeah.
And they do. They have their parents spending money or they have their own little bill money or whatever, but like they don't have like money to do big things. And so like the biggest challenge of our community is retaining our young people. And just like sort of it is inevitable that our town sways a little left as old people die and very conservative people move to Idaho. It is also inevitable that because of increasing pressures around our community, we do start to retract more of our young people because they're not going to be able to afford to leave. So they're going to be trapped here.
Right.
So we're going to see, and that was what happened in my childhood. There was nowhere to move.
Yeah.
And so we had this booming teenage art scene and music scene when I was young here. That stuff will come back when kids can't leave.
Right.
And so the thing that we need to do,
Trap them.
that's what's going to happen no matter what. And so
Yeah.
like my pitch is to anyone that matters is the most important thing anyone can accomplish in this community is a music venue for the kids of our community focused ages 12 to 19 that is funded corporately where we don't need their money to operate it and that we give 100% of the revenue to the musicians and artists that perform there each and every day. And we need, the thing that's missing is a place to take the cool kids that were in high school band and get them to being bar age music acts. We used to have a lot of those places, and the bars used to let underage performers in too, and the laws were different. But there's a big gap for cool kids where you just can't be cool over age 16 because there isn't anything to do. And 21 again, hey, there's cool stuff. But so we need things to shepherd our cool kids ages 12 into having a stake in their community so when they can choose to leave, well, I already have a cool venue that lets our band play every weekend we want to in the Tri-Cities. We have a following. Mm-hmm. Oh, I've got a place that'll show my weird art. Oh, there are cheap spaces where I can open my weird 3D printing shop in my town. We need to lure these kids into keeping their weird ideas here and give them places to fail and not try and make a buck on them.
You're right, because all throughout like my early 20s was spent playing music at Ray's Golden Lion or the what was it, the Red Room,
Yep.
Red Door.
And there was Atomic
Purple
City
Lounge.
Records before that.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
and Lee's Tahitian.
and those for like EDM shows, less so for the rock shows, but like when like dubstep was a thing, those shows were huge.
Yeah.
Like we played shows. There'd be like 300 people in Ray's Golden, 200.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And
there
there'd
were
be another
10,000 people.
What do
There'd
we
be
have now,
300
Emerald?
There'd be 300 at Ray's. There'd be another 150 down at Atomic City Records, and there'd be another 50 drunk at Lee's Tea Room.
Yeah.
And they'd be rotating venues, and
You're
so
right.
you could get 600 people in Ray's over the course of a 5-hour show night.
Right.
And none of that exists in our town anymore.
And you're right. The enthusiasm was there.
It was. We spawned.
It's
Mark
naive to think it's
Watrous
gone.
in this town.
Right.
Like we've made real, actual rock stars in this community.
Right.
But it was when we had the facilities for them to exist as young pre-rock stars. And none of that exists anymore. No, I can get 12 companies together for a minimal investment. We could fix our entire youth future in our community by opening up a music venue.
I'm just curious though, and this is just off subject kind of, but do you think that social media, internet, just everything is, you think that that's going to prevent people from wanting together and create these things? Do you think it's more important to maybe create an online platform for the Tri-Cities versus an actual place? I agree that
Online exists already in ways that are way better than anyone can hear. Because like the thing is, if it's going to be special, why is it special? You're not going to make a better Facebook than Facebook. You're not going to make a better whatever than Tidal. What we can do that's unique and special is make a place where people actually build relationships. Because what's missing from streaming isn't access to music, it is getting money to the performers. And so if we can build a paradigm where kids can get paid. The other reason it bloomed here is because big artists, when there were these venues, on their way to Seattle or on their way out of Seattle, they would stop through the Tri-Cities for a cheap night's pay, a good meal, and cheap gas to fill up their rigs. And so we can book these big acts that are on their way to Seattle or on their way from Portland or whatever in our crusty little venue. And that was how we used to get, we've had huge names come through the Tri-Cities. So like that's the thing that's missing is the place for people to come together and a place where Johnny's high school rock band can make $150 in one night playing with their shitty instruments.
What's our population right now? Like
300,000 is our metro area.
Okay, so that's not insignificant, right?
Nope.
So,
But yeah, do you think you could get enough kids to be involved with the way the world is today?
Yes.
That's the real question.
well, so
100%.
my thought was the first thing I thought of was the Uptown Theater. So like the last show, and maybe one of the only shows I've ever been there, but I went and saw Loudermilk there for the reunion show, and it sounded phenomenal. Like they have what it takes to put on a good show.
Yep.
Right. And I'm interested in the way that's going to look going forward as things do kind of as people do get squeezed out of other areas of town. Because I was one of them. Like I moved to Seattle for a year, got there and found out, oh, it's really expensive and I'll never own a home or have kids. And then I ended up back here. And for me, it was a breath of fresh air. It was I was happy to be back here because everything was easier. I'm kind of excited to see, you'd like to see that in Kennewick though.
Yeah, I'd like to see everything kind of.
Okay.
I live
sure.
here.
Is there any thought of actually doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it. I've got a concept called the Neon Sloth that we could put together. I've done all the legwork. I just need other people with money that want to set some money on fire.
Right.
But yeah. I mean, these things aren't hard to do. It's just got to take one or two people that actually want to do that stuff.
Yeah, I'm interested in how that would actually look and what that would actually how that would work, because I'll say I'm skeptical. I don't mean to. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just like it would be a very pleasant surprise to me to see something like that thrive, while at the same time saying I just watched it happen 8 years ago or something like that. So before Ray's shut down. But Ray's
everyone should also go out and Google the local documentary about our music scene. Have you seen the Kickstarter for that?
Yeah.
It's called All Ages Show, and everyone should. We actually are having our own Tri-Cities music scene documentary about from our glory days.
Yeah,
and
I mean, and we're right between. Salt Lake City to Seattle to Spokane.
It was an incredible time.
Yeah,
we could do it again.
Yeah,
we just need people that want to burn money for kids. Everyone stop being greedy, selfish assholes and set your money on fire so kids have a cooler time in this town.
Yeah.
You don't need another boat. No one likes you for your boat. And the people that like you for your boat aren't real friends.
No, they don't love you.
No, they just like your boat.
Make the kids love you.
Yeah. Sorry, that's harsh.
Well, shoot, man.
I was poor too long to like rich people. That's my problem.
That's, do you think you'd like yourself?
50-50.
Yeah. I don't like myself now.
Yeah, I was just about to say I've never liked myself.
Amen.
Well, all right, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for inviting me on this
coming,
wonderful show. Anytime we can waste your minutes talking about all this, it's wonderful.
I
Thanks for the
text
opportunity.
your wife back about a house. Do you know what the house is?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, hope it's cool.
I'll connect.
Yeah. Tell her I said hey.
Appreciate it, brother.
Have a good day,
Thanks,
guys.
man.